And now, you're listening to Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. Taking your calls on 0861 987 000.
The time is 7:06 here on Power Breakfast this morning with Tessa Dooms. And of course, we just ran out of time to do our 6:50 interview that we threw forward to. So we are now catching up with that conversation. Of course, 28 or more zamas have emerged from the Sheba mine shaft in Mpumalanga. And of course, we've seen so many of those groups coming up from that mine shaft of people who are doing mining illegally. Kgothatso Mhlengetywa joins us this morning, a mining expert, just to talk to us about what is happening in this space, especially around the idea, Kgothatso, that we are, getting the zamas emerging from these mines, but what happens afterwards? We can't just continue taking the people who are doing the mining, but we're not actually going after the syndicates.
That's so true. Let me start by saying good morning to you and good morning to your listeners, Tessa.
Good morning.
See, the current problem is that we're looking at the man on the ground. We're looking at the exploited miners. So for those that you're actually coming up and are getting arrested, there's simply going to be 100 more that are going to be replaced by them. So the problem is that we're not catching those middlemen and we're not catching those kingpins. And the reason is that they're sitting in high places and they like the status quo of illegal mining. And these are political spheres, these are corporate spheres, these are banking spheres. Because we often ask ourselves in our research, how does the gold go from illegal to the legal space? And the zama on the ground does not have the capacity to do that.
Yeah, I mean, in our news bulletin, we were discovering the fact that they're actually struggling to get the illegal mine workers to actually snitch, as it were, or tell on who the people are who are running these operations. What calculations are they having to make? Because they're facing jail time at this point and are still unwilling to give up those people who they are, were working for. What are the power dynamics and what are the possibilities if they do tell?
It's actually a life and death situation for them, because one thing you must realize is that if the zamas speak, who is their boss? Who is their kingpin? First of all, sometimes they don't know who's the man at the top because that's an invisible layer. But let's say their direct boss. That is a life and death situation. Often they are trafficked and often their lives are threatened. So it's a matter of, are you facing jail time or will your life be taken away? And I think for them, jail time seems to be a better option.
Sure. You do talk about these illegal miners as somewhat vulnerable. Trafficking, how big a part of that is this industry, and how much does it rely on trafficking people, human trafficking, but also to what extent is this also just a result and a consequence of mining operations that are wrapping up and closing down in different parts of the country? Because always when I see illegal mining, a lot of times it gets conflated with illegal immigration. And of course, we have a lot of South Africans who are mine workers who no longer work. What is the big split, or what is the split between people who are South African versus people who are migrants?
In the research that we've done over the years, we've realized that there's actually a heterogeneous sector. You do find that there are South Africans who are in this space, and these South Africans are often those who are either descendants of mine workers or have been mine workers themselves. So they've either gotten the skills from their father, their uncle, or whatever, or they are the ones that were the mine workers themselves. And then you have these illegal immigrants, and often with illegal immigrants, they're told when they get to maybe Lesotho or Mozambique or Swaziland that, no, there's better prospects of employment in South Africa. But when they get here, then they're forced into illegal mining. And the problem is that once they are here, some of them have no documentation, some of them have nowhere else to go, and the only thing that they've been taught or that they know is how to go underground. So for them, there's no other option but to continue, and that is the poverty trap that they get stuck in.
Yeah.
But the problem is that we don't see who are these people who are actually giving them these false promises.
And I think we also underestimate, in a country where employment or unemployment is as high as ours, that the kinds of traps around exploitative labor are actually quite easy to get into. But one would think that in a sector like this, where illegal mining, which is the core issue here, is actually quite a dangerous thing to be doing. How long are people trapped or, underground, unwilling to come up because they may be arrested? What are some of the dangers, the physical dangers they're putting themselves in?
Yeah, so there are three main dangers. First of all, because there's no food or water coming down, we face the danger of starvation, which is the one that we also saw in Stilfontein when there was that massive saga that went down there. And then second of all, there's issues of the geological dynamics that you find underground. So one of that is that you do find gases underground like carbon monoxide. And without the proper ventilation like you have at some of these larger scale mines, you might have pockets of gases that are, this carbon monoxide is actually, you can't smell it.
Yeah.
So then they end up dying underground. And then the third dynamic, you might find something like force of ground. Because what happens is that they would want to go deeper because they don't want to be found. But the deeper you get, the more unstable the rock is going to be.
Right.
Especially because they are mining the actual pillars that are supposed to be holding up the rock. So then now they face the dangers of fall of ground. So those are the three main dangers that they face, and those are life and death dangers right there.
I mean, you've said the phrase life and death different times at this interview for different reasons. And so really people are putting their lives on the line in order to make scraps in a sector that is, of course, illegal, not even unregulated, illegal. And so it's a matter of either dying because you're not willing to do this illegal work and there isn't or there aren't other opportunities for you, whether here or in another country, or dying because you're putting yourself at physical risk, or the risk of dying if you then tell on your illegal criminal bosses. What a trifecta of bad choices or bad options in the choices that, as you say, these mine workers have. But thank you so much for laying that one out. It is alarming seeing also just the numbers coming out in terms of these illegal miners now going into the court system, and one wonders what happens even if we do put people through these justice systems. Do we really get justice in our society if we just focus on the mine workers and never get to the kingpins? But thank you so much, Kgothatso Mhlengetywa, for just giving us that insight into that issue.